This relates to the question that Kirk Cousins addressed with us at the Super Bowl regarding his career longevity. I mean, he's 35. And as quarterbacks go, like 35 is the new 30 or the new 28. I don't know. Tom Brady played until he was 45, and that screwed up everyone's estimation of how long a quarterback can play. Here is Cousins from the Bussin' with the Boys podcast on how much longer he wants to play football.
I'm a 1 year at a time guy, but for the sake of the podcast, I'd like to play out this contract and maybe do one more. So,
into 40.
I think so. I think, if my boys are doing well, if they enjoy the boys will honestly have a big play in it, because if they're saying, hey, Dad, we'd really like to have you stop, I'm done. But if they're like, Dad, you can't quit, you got to go. Like, we're enjoying this. This is fun. I would go. So we're just going to see how they view it. But they love it right now. And, it was funny when we signed the contract here, my agent, as we were leaving the building, he just jokingly, I think he even said it to Minnesota too when we first moved there. He tapped him on the shoulder and he said, all right, thanks so much, guys. We'll see you. And he goes, we'll see you in 3 years for the extension. That's awesome. So I thought that was a good line. We'll see, 1 year at a time.
Did they tape that before they drafted Penix? There's not going to be an extension in 3 years, Kirk. It's not happening. That's all done. You're going to play out this contract. It's a 4-year contract. If you're going to play out this contract, years 2, 3, and 4, maybe. At a minimum, 3 and 4 are going to happen somewhere else. You're not going to stay in Atlanta for the rest of your career unless Michael Penix Jr. is a complete and total disaster, right? A Dan McGuire level bust.
Right.
It's not happening. You're not going to be there. The only way Cousins finishes his career in Atlanta is if his career only lasts another year or two, or Penix ends up being a complete and total train wreck. It's just not happening. There won't be an extension in 3 years. There won't be another contract with the Falcons unless he chooses to stick around as the backup to Michael Penix Jr. If his kids love Atlanta and they don't want to move and they don't want Dad to be living somewhere else during football season and they're fine with Dad being QB2, that's the only way he's staying in Atlanta more than – the over-under for me is 2 years. That's it. 2 years.
Yeah.
Not 1.5, not 2.5. It's 2 years. Because I think in 2 years, he's gone.
Yeah.
And he could be gone in less than 2 years.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I think, too, what he looks like this year, I think is going to tell us a lot about, what the future looks like. Again, you've heard me say things like this before, right? Like, hey, Brady, right? Aaron Rodgers, their arm will never die. It doesn't matter. When they're 72, we're still going to go, damn, look at Brady can still throw the ball in the backyard. Look at that. Like, he will be able to do that. It's a natural, easy motion, just like Rodgers, that. Kirk Cousins, I will not say that. Kirk Cousins, I don't think has the type of motion or arm that will last a test of time. I don't. It's a high-effort throwing motion from a guy that's not necessarily real big, as you know. And, again, if you guys want to play clips of him throwing the ball again, too, it's, very long and deliberate. And that kind of motion usually doesn't last the test of time. He might still be able to throw a nice, pretty ball, but this is a guy that never had a wow arm. This is a good arm, but not a great arm. But it's a long motion. There's a wind-up part of that. That's why anticipation is important for Kirk Cousins, because he can't just see it and throw a laser or do anything like that. But yeah, again, so you couple that with the age, and then, now we can't be as explosive with our footwork and our back leg and pushing off, right? I mean, we could see a notable difference this year in Kirk Cousins. I wouldn't be shocked, right? Just kind of like how, Matt Ryan was pretty good, and you get around this age sometimes with some guys, and all of a sudden he went to the Colts, and we're like, what the hell happened to Matt Ryan? He looks like he can't take a hit. He looks frail as hell. He drops the ball when somebody blows in his ear and he fumbles, and he can't throw the ball through a pane of glass. Like, what happened? And Kirk Cousins, I wouldn't be shocked if we have some of those questions this year, but then would only lead to more questions and more Michael Penix talk and all of that. But, these are all things that, I would worry about, certainly if I'm in Atlanta right now.
You know, that's a great point. The more that a quarterback uses his whole body to muster his arm strength, the more likely he is to fall off a cliff before he hits the age of 40. I think the more it's just your arm, like it is with Brady, the other stuff doesn't matter.
Exactly.
If it's just you've got rocket arm, then, you know, like Mahomes, he's got rocket arm.
Exactly
He doesn't
right.
need any of that other stuff.
No.
And Cousins, to your point, needs that other stuff. And once that other stuff starts to go, the arm's going to start to go.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the ball's not getting there on time.
Right.
It's getting picked off.
Yes.
The window's tighter.
Right.
He's not the guy that he was. What happened to Kirk Cousins? Well, you know what? We don't have time to figure it out. Put in Penix.
That's, again, that's what we're talking about. We're going to see. I'm interested to see more of these clips. I can't wait to see the clips like a month from now, see if he's improved, where it's gone from there, right? But, I do think they're going to have to be careful to a degree with how they orchestrate practice and how they orchestrate the plays that go to each guy. And they might even have to orchestrate some script for success, as they would say in the NFL. Hey, defensive coach, play this coverage because we're going to call this play so Kirk looks like 180 million here, okay? And that will go on. There's no doubt about it. Seen it happen in my career, and like I was saying early in the segment, they're going to have to be careful, I think, about what they do and call for Michael Penix because, they're not going to want him to steal too many days in training camp with everybody going home going, holy cow, Michael Penix was unreal today. They're going to have to manage that, and that's going to be on them to do that.
And see, you're just complicating your life.
I know.
You've got other stuff to do. It's a first-year coaching staff. I know Raheem Morris has been a coach before, but it's his first year in Atlanta. They got other stuff to do. They got to get Kirk Cousins ready. Now they got to worry about how it's going to look, if they even worry about it. See, that's the other thing, Chris. That's the reasonable way to attack the situation, but we've already seen irrational. So when we've seen irrational in the not-too-distant past, I think we can assume irrational might continue. So they may just walk right into this mess. They might just go ahead and just let it fly, and Kirk doesn't look good, and Penix does, and everything that flows from that. And it just becomes kind of a natural if those things happen. If they don't try to prop up Cousins, we want Penix. We want Penix. Well, let's just give him Penix. We don't know what else to do. Sorry, Kirk. You've handled it pretty well so far. Keep handling it well from the bench. We just don't know. Because, again, there's that void of careful, deliberate, strategic, what happens when I do this? There's two ways to go about finding out. Either you do it and you see, or you sit down and really think it through and talk it through in a group setting with ownership involved. What happens when we do this? What should we think might happen when we do this? And it's going to be a fun ride.
Yes, it is.
For everybody except Falcons fans, potentially. Unless they just go ahead and go with Penix. Go with Penix and he plays well. Then your only regret is $62.5 million paid to Kirk Cousins. It's a hell of an insurance policy against, making sure you get the guy that you wanted in the draft. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.